Perhaps you already know this feeling. A long day passes in noise and an endless stream of information and thoughts layered upon thoughts, so that when night finally arrives, the body is tired, yet the mind refuses to come to rest. Quiet questions begin to surface. Where am I going? What truly matters? And why does everything seem to move so fast? Tonight, you don't need to answer any of them. This video is a very slow invitation, a gentle descent into the deep ocean, where light gradually fades, where life no longer rushes, and where the mind can loosen its grip without effort. There, we are not searching for drama or mysteries to conquer, but simply listening to the breath of the earth, listening to the patience of water, and listening to ourselves. Like the deep ocean, the human mind also has layers that light rarely reaches. Not to be feared, but to be rested in. As Carl Jung once said, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. So if you are here, allow yourself to slow down. There is no need to understand everything, no need to remember. Just let this voice guide you very gently downward to where everything becomes quieter, deeper, and safe enough for you to close your eyes. Under the lights of modern life, we have grown accustomed to seeing the world through clear outlines, maps, schedules, clockwork, rhythms, surfaces that are bright, measurable, and defined. Yet, directly beneath our feet, just below that familiar layer of light, there exists another half of the earth, quiet, profound, and almost entirely detached from the cadence of human life. The deep ocean is not merely what remains of water. It is a parallel world governed by rules we rarely have to confront and just as rarely have the patience to truly listen to. When we stand before the ocean, we are often drawn to its surface, sunlight, reflecting waves moving in steady rhythms, the horizon opening into a sense of freedom. But this is only the thinnest layer of a vast reality. Most of the ocean, and in a way most of the planet itself, exists beyond sight, beyond intuition, and beyond the ordinary reach of human imagination. We live on a world whose greatest spaces have never been stepped into by human feet, never touched by sunlight, and never required our presence in order to continue existing. There is a particular kind of humility in realizing this. The understanding that the world does not revolve around human perception, that there are regions which need not be witnessed in order to be complete. The deep ocean becomes a quiet reminder that reality is far larger than what we can control or fully comprehend. And perhaps for that very reason, it becomes an ideal space for contemplation and for the mind to rest. As sunlight weakens and disappears at greater depths, it is not only color that fades, but also the familiar reference points we rely on. There is no clear direction, no intuitive sense of up or down, no day and night as they exist on land. There is only a darkness that is deep, dense, and steady. A darkness that does not hurry, does not threaten, but holds everything within its persistent presence. Within that darkness, the ocean invites us to step away from light, not as an act of escape, but as an act of release. Releasing the need to see everything clearly. Releasing the pressure to understand immediately, to name, to explain. Because not everything that exists must be illuminated to hold value. Some things can only be felt when we allow ourselves to slow down, to settle, and to remain gently within not knowing. Philosophy has long whispered this truth in many forms. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." Perhaps the deep ocean is the physical image of that inner space, a place without noise, a place without the demand to react, a place that exists independently of the stories human beings endlessly tell themselves. When we think about the hidden half of the earth, we are also thinking about the hidden half of ourselves, the parts of the mind that do not always remain on the surface of awareness, the emotions that resist easy naming, the memories, fears, and intuitions that persist quietly but relentlessly, like water pressure increasing with depth, never loud yet absolute. The deep ocean does not conquer by attack. It simply exists, and that existence alone is enough to shape everything within it. Perhaps this is why when we allow ourselves to enter the image of the deep ocean through imagination, through words, through a slow and gentle narration, something within us also begins to settle. The breath slows. The stream of thought becomes less urgent. The large questions about meaning, purpose, and who we must become no longer demand immediate answers. They are set down the way light halts at a certain depth, yielding to quiet darkness to do its work. In that silence, there is no emptiness. There is potential. Potential for other forms of life, other rhythms of existence, other ways of simply being without needing to be seen or affirmed. The deep ocean teaches us that life does not always need noise to be meaningful, and neither do we. The first chapter of this journey, then, is not merely a lesson in science. It is an invitation to step away from the familiar brightness of constant thinking, relentless worry, and ever-glowing screens. An invitation to move downward slowly into a darkness that is not frightening, where we are allowed to do nothing at all except be present. And when we allow ourselves to remain there, even briefly in imagination, even for a few moments before sleep arrives, we may come to realize that most of the world and most of ourselves is still intact, still functioning, still whole, even when unseen. And sometimes realizing that is enough to let the mind finally rest. When we have remained still long enough at the threshold of the deep ocean, as in the previous chapter, a very natural moment begins to unfold. The gaze no longer clings to the surface. It starts to drift downward, slowly, very slowly, not like a fall, but like a letting go. And it is precisely in that moment, when the movement becomes almost imperceptible, that light begins to weaken. Sunlight, the force that has shaped nearly the entirety of human lived experience, in truth reaches only a thin layer of the ocean, a very thin layer, so thin that when compared to the whole, it resembles the skin of a vast creature. We live, think, dream, and worry within that band of light, and unconsciously assume it to be the entirety of reality. Yet just beneath it, only a few hundred meters below the surface, light begins to stop. Not abruptly, without a sharp boundary. It fades, dissolves, like a quiet thought withdrawing from the mind. Color is the first to leave. Red disappears first, then orange, then yellow. A world once familiar slowly narrows its palette. What remains grows colder, bluer, and eventually turns gray, then black. Not black in a frightening sense, but a kind of non-color, a state in which the eye finds nothing to hold on to. And as color vanishes, something deeper happens in silence. Our familiar sense of direction begins to unravel. On land, we orient ourselves by light, by shadows, by horizons, by the clear distinctions between day and night, up and down, near and But when light stops, these concepts lose their foundation. The deep ocean no longer has a front or a behind in any intuitive sense. There is only space, a space without visual anchors, where both body and mind must learn how to exist without relying on familiar signals. Here, darkness is not simply the absence of light as we usually understand it. It is a stable condition, a default state, a form of existence that has endured far longer than any ray of light that ever reached it. Eternal darkness is not loud, not restless, not in need of asserting itself. It simply is, patient, encompassing. And it is precisely this patience that makes it uniquely suited for listening. Perhaps this is why in philosophy and psychology, darkness has never belonged solely to the negative. Carl Jung once wrote in Psychology and Religion, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This is not a call to step into fear, but an invitation to return to those parts of experience that light does not reach, the unclear, the unnamed, the unperformed. When light stops in the ocean, life does not disappear, it changes. Creatures learn to exist in a reality where seeing is no longer central. And human beings, if they listen slowly enough, can learn something from this moment as well, that not all understanding comes from seeing clearly. That there are forms of awareness which only arise when we allow ourselves to remain in darkness long enough without trying to chase it away. In modern life, we often fear the dark spaces within our own minds, the moments when we do not know what comes next, the phases of disorientation, the long nights when questions outnumber answers. We rush to turn on the lights, filling the space with information, sound, movement. But the deep ocean does not. It allows light to stop. And in doing so, it opens the door to a different kind of order, an order of slowness, of sensing of existence that does not need to be justified. As color fades, sensation shifts. Time begins to stretch. A minute no longer feels like a minute on the surface. In darkness, the rhythm of everything becomes steadier, slower. There is no urgency of dawn or dusk, only a continuous flow of being unbroken by light. And it is this flow that closely resembles the state just before sleep, where consciousness does not vanish, but no longer grips tightly. There is a gentle healing in allowing light to stop, not because darkness holds answers, but because it does not demand answers immediately. It allows questions to exist. It allows ambiguity to rest. And when the mind no longer has to constantly orient itself, it begins to loosen. Just as the body, when it no longer relies on vision to maintain balance, learns to sense space through other faculties, deeper, subtler ones. Creatures that live in the eternal darkness of the deep ocean do not experience it as a lack. It is their baseline condition. They grow within it. They adapt to it. And in some quiet way, human beings carry this capacity too, the ability to exist, without always needing to see clearly, the ability to rest, in not knowing, the ability to let awareness drift slowly, without purpose, without reaching for conclusions. And as we descend even further, when light has completely withdrawn, something unexpected occurs. Darkness does not become an ending. It becomes the ground upon which another form of light can appear. But that is the story of the next chapter. Here in the moment, just after light retreats, we only need to stay a while, to remain within the softening of color, within the dissolving of direction, within the pause, where nothing is required except breathing slow, deep, and even. The ocean has been familiar with darkness for a very long time. And perhaps on this night, your mind can gently reacquaint itself with it as well, not as a place of fear, but as a space safe enough for light to be allowed to rest. After the light has come to rest, as in the previous chapter, a curious sensation begins to emerge. It is not fear and not quite reassurance either. It is the feeling that time itself is starting to change its shape. There are no longer clear moments to count, no sharp boundary between before and after. There is only a very slow current, almost imperceptible, carrying us deeper into the ocean, and at the same time, deeper into the experience of our own existence. The ocean has no rigid borders. It is not divided by straight lines or sealed by clear partitions. There is no door announcing that from this point on you have entered another world. Instead, there are only transitions, very slow ones. So slow that without patience, it might seem as though nothing is changing at all. Yet, it is precisely within this slowness that the ocean reveals an essential lesson. The most profound transformations rarely arrive with noise. From the surface where light still dances and waves leave visible traces, the ocean gradually enters the twilight zone. Here, nothing vanishes at once. It simply grows more ambiguous. Light weakens, colors soften, movement loses its urgency. Then from twilight, the ocean slips onward into the midnight zone, where darkness becomes the default state and light survives only as a distant memory. Beyond that lies the deep sea floor, where time no longer seems measured in days or years, but in the patience of existence itself. What is remarkable is that each of these layers differs not only in depth, but in rhythm. Each layer follows its own laws of survival. What works at the surface becomes meaningless below. Strategies that once ensured survival above can turn into burdens in deeper layers. The ocean does not force life into sameness. It allows difference to arise naturally, so long as that difference is attuned to the rhythm of the layer in which it lives. When we listen to this slowly enough, it becomes difficult not to think of human life. We often imagine our lives as divided into clear stages: childhood, adulthood, crisis, stability. Yet in truth, like the ocean, the human mind has no hard borders. There are only quiet transitions, changes so gradual that we recognize them only when we are already far from where we began. There are phases of life that resemble the surface waters, where everything moves quickly, clearly, and with stimulation. There are phases like twilight, where the old has not fully disappeared, and the new has not yet arrived. And there are phases like the midnight zone, where we no longer see clearly where we are going, yet we continue to exist, to breathe, and to wait. These phases are not mistakes. They are simply different layers of the same journey. Philosophy has long observed this truth in many forms. Heraclitus once said, "No man ever steps in the same river twice." Not because the river changes all at once, but because change is continuous even when it is slow. The ocean is like this, time is like this, and so are we. At greater depths, time is no longer experienced as a sequence of events. It becomes a state, a background, a condition of being. Creatures of the deep do not wait for tomorrow as we do. They do not measure time with calendars or clocks. They live within an extended present where patience is not a virtue, but a requirement for survival. And it is this patience that shapes evolution here, slow, steady, and enduring. This carries a subtle healing quality for the human mind, especially at night. When we allow ourselves to follow the ocean's unhurried narration, the pressure to arrive somewhere begins to dissolve. There is no need to rush toward achievement, no need to label which stage of life we are in. To be here within the current layer of experience is enough. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years." This is not meant to provoke anxiety, but to remind us that time does not need to be tightly held. Like the ocean, time does not require us to understand its structure in order to move with it. It asks only that we be present slowly enough not to be swept away by the shallowness of the surface. As we descend further, consciousness itself begins to operate differently. Scattered thoughts start to weave into a smoother current. There are fewer peaks, fewer conflicts. What remains is a sense of steadiness. And within that steadiness, sleep begins to appear not as a collapse, but as a natural continuation of the time already flowing. Perhaps this is why the deep ocean never hurries. It does not need to accelerate anything. It allows each layer to exist fully within its own rhythm. And when we listen to this story at night, we too can allow ourselves not to be in any right place at all. Not at the surface and not necessarily at the deepest floor, only in the layer we are currently in, calm enough not to resist, soft enough not to fear change. The deeper layers of time are not ladders to be climbed. They are spaces to move through. And moving through them, as the ocean teaches us, does not require speed. It requires only enough slowness for each transition to become a natural part of the current. And within that current, the mind gradually discovers its own rhythm of rest, a rhythm that needs no clock, no light, only the quiet presence of this moment. As we gradually grow accustomed to the drifting rhythm of the deeper layers where time is no longer divided by clear boundaries, another sensation begins to emerge. Not through images and not through sound. It is the sensation of weight, an invisible heaviness unseen and unheard, yet increasingly undeniable as we descend. The ocean does not announce it. It does not warn or threaten. The weight of the water simply exists and grows with every meter of depth. Pressure in the ocean does not rise in sudden leaps. It increases evenly, patiently. Every few meters, the water becomes just a little heavier. A change so subtle that the human body can hardly register it at first. Yet it is precisely this steadiness that makes pressure an absolute force. There is no dramatic peak, no moment of explosion. Only slow, continuous accumulation until everything must adapt or be reshaped. What is striking is this: the ocean does not need to attack in order to prevail. It does not strike, shove, or unleash violent motion in the depths. The weight of water is not aggressive, it is passive. And yet it is this passivity that makes it inescapable. Pressure does not chase you. Wherever you go, it is there. If you stop, it remains. You cannot argue with it nor persuade it to ease. You can only change yourself in order to exist within it. There is a profoundly quiet lesson here, especially when listened to at the slow pace of night. In human life, not all burdens arrive as great upheavals. Most pressure comes from small things repeated again and again, accumulating over time. Responsibilities, expectations, obligations, things no one explicitly forces upon us yet, which remain steadily increasing. And like water pressure, they rarely make noise, until one day we realize we are carrying too much. The deep ocean does not tolerate rigidity. Hollow structures, air-filled chambers, shapes, designed for the surface, all become dangerous at depth. Here, only what can yield, soften, and merge endures. Life does not fight pressure. It learns how to let pressure pass through it without collapsing its inner structure. This is not surrender. It is a form of very ancient intelligence. Philosophy, in its own way, has always observed the difference between loud strength and enduring strength. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." But in the deep ocean, strength does not come from hardening oneself through endurance. It comes from altering the structure of existence so as not to be crushed. A form of power that is quiet, unresistant, adaptive. When we consider this through the lens of the human mind, especially at night, a gentle comfort begins to surface, that we do not always need to stand firm against pressure. Sometimes what is required is learning how to reshape our inner form, less hollow, less rigid, less bound to the expectation that we must preserve the same shape under every condition. Pressure does not ask whether you are ready. It does not care whether you are strong or fragile. It simply exists. And in this way, the ocean teaches a lesson in the neutrality of reality. Reality is neither cruel nor kind. It simply is. What makes the difference is not the intensity of pressure, but the capacity of a being or a human to adjust itself in the presence of that weight. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." In the deep ocean, no creature has power over water pressure, but they do have power over how they exist within it. Human beings are the same. We cannot control every circumstance, but we can learn how the mind does not shatter beneath their weight. As the narration continues its slow drift, pressure ceases to be a dry scientific concept. It becomes an intimate metaphor. Long nights when thoughts press heavily, silent spaces where emotions remain unnamed, periods of life when nothing is quite a crisis, yet nothing feels light. That is pressure, quiet, yet present. What heals here is not the removal of weight. The ocean does not allow that. Healing lies in changing our relationship with weight itself. When we stop seeing pressure as an enemy, we begin to observe it as a condition of existence. And in that observation, the mind softens, the breath slows, the body stops bracing itself without awareness. As we move deeper still, pressure becomes the background. It is no longer something we constantly register. It simply becomes the condition in which everything exists differently. And it is in this moment, when weight is no longer experienced as a threat, that sleep begins to open. Not as an escape, but as a natural adaptation of consciousness. The deep ocean does not need to prove its power. It does not need to defeat anyone. The weight of water through absolute patience has shaped forms of life unknown to the surface. And on this night, as you listen to this story, perhaps you too do not need to conquer anything within your mind. No need to overcome, no need to resolve, only to allow the pressure of a long day to be there and to allow yourself to soften just a little. Because sometimes the greatest strength does not lie in standing firm against weight, but in learning how to let weight pass through you without breaking what truly matters. After sensing the weight of the water, a patient, absolute heaviness that needs no display, we begin to notice something very subtle. The ocean does not ask for rigidity. It does not reward structures that insist on preserving their original shape. In the deepest layers where pressure is the baseline condition of existence, life does not fight. It blends. And it is there that a gentle paradox reveals itself. Flexibility is strength. Deep sea creatures do not resist pressure. They do not build fortresses, reinforce rigid frames, or create hollow spaces to escape the weight. They have no hard bones in the familiar sense, no air chambers, no structures easily shattered by compression. Instead, they possess bodies that yield, that bend, that allow pressure to pass through them. Pressure is not pushed away, it is accepted. And because of that, the body does not break. There is a very ancient wisdom in this choice. The ocean teaches that not every circumstance calls for confrontation. Not every force needs to be conquered. There are forces like pressure, like time, like reality itself, that become more destructive the more we resist them. But when we soften at the right moment, when we change how we exist, rather than clinging to an old form, that very force can become part of stability. Listening to this at night, the human mind begins to recognize something familiar. We are taught to be strong, to stand firm, to hold our ground. Rarely are we taught that flexibility is also a form of strength. That there are periods in life when what is needed is not to endure more, but to relax in the right places, to hold less tension, to release the effort of remaining an unchanging version of ourselves. In the deep ocean, life survives by changing form without losing essence. It is soft, not because it is weak, but because softness is the only way to endure. This echoes naturally with philosophical reflections that have long existed in human history. Lao Tzu wrote in the Tao Te Ching, water is fluid, soft, and yielding, but water will wear away rock which is rigid and cannot yield. There is no confrontation here, only time, flexibility, and persistent adaptation. As pressure increases, deep sea life does not become tougher. It becomes simpler, fewer empty spaces, fewer fragile structures, and it is precisely this simplification that creates endurance. Perhaps the human mind works in a similar way. When the pressures of life increase, sometimes what is needed is not more skills, more plans, more control, but less. Fewer expectations, fewer comparisons, fewer hollow spaces of unnecessary anxiety. On long nights when thoughts pile upon thoughts, we often feel too full. Yet sometimes what makes us fragile is not excess, but emptiness in the wrong places. Unmet expectations, unanswered questions, images of ourselves we keep even when they no longer fit. The deep ocean does not cling to what is unnecessary. It allows life to recalibrate, to restructure itself until everything can rest within pressure. Existential philosophy touches this from another angle. Meaning does not always arise from firm assertion. Sometimes it appears when we allow ourselves to be uncertain, when we soften in the presence of questions without immediate answers. Carl Jung once wrote in Psychology and Alchemy, "The pendulum of the mind oscillates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong." The flexibility of the mind, the ability to oscillate without breaking, is what allows us to pass through dark phases without losing ourselves. As the narration continues its slow drift, flexibility begins to feel not merely like a biological trait, but like a way of living, a way of being present, not forcing immediate reactions, not demanding clarity from everything, not treating change as failure. In the deep ocean, changing form is not a loss of identity. It is the condition that allows identity to continue. And perhaps on this night, as you listen, your mind is doing the same. Thoughts no longer feel as sharp as they did during the day. Emotions soften. Awareness loosens, drifting with the steady rhythm of the voice. There is no need to understand everything completely. No need to stay awake through control. Sleep arrives not as a collapse, but as a natural bending of consciousness. Flexibility is strength because it allows us to exist without needing to win. It allows us to remain within the pressure of life without being crushed. In this light, healing is not the removal of difficulty, but a change in how we carry it, lighter, softer, with less resistance. The deep ocean does not praise rigidity. It favors what knows how to merge. And as this story settles into the night, perhaps you too can allow yourself not to be strong in a loud way, not to stand upright against every pressure, only to be flexible enough for the weight to pass through and gentle enough with yourself not to break. At this depth, life does not fight to survive. It breathes with the ocean. And as you close your eyes, your mind may be learning to breathe in the same way, slow, soft, and at peace. After learning how to soften before pressure, when body and mind no longer resist but merge into the deep rhythm of the ocean, something unexpected begins to happen. Darkness, which seemed to have completely claimed the space, is suddenly no longer absolute. Not because sunlight returns, there is no dawn, no new direction, but because darkness itself begins to glow. In the deepest layers where external light never reaches, life does not abandon light, it redefines it. Bioluminescence appears as a new language, quiet, unshowy, yet deeply intentional. Small sparks flare within the eternal night, not to illuminate a path for anyone, but to send signals, to say I am here, to distract, to attract, to survive. Light in the deep ocean is no longer a tool for seeing the world. It does not reveal surfaces. It does not disclose the complete shape of anything. Instead, light becomes an action, a gesture, a reflex of survival, a form of communication in a world where vision has long ceased to be central. This carries a subtle inversion. On land, we often use light to control, to see clearly, to classify, to name. Light is paired with the power of knowing, but in the deep ocean, light does not serve knowledge. It serves relationship. A flash does not say, this is what it is, but this is what I am doing with you. It is a question, an invitation, a deception, a strategy of existence. And when darkness begins to glow in this way, it is no longer empty. It becomes a space filled with language, just not a language humans are used to. Brief flashes, gentle luminous bands, precisely timed pulses of on and off, all of it forms a silent dialogue stretching back millions of years, needing no audience, needing no understanding. There is something deeply healing in realizing this. Darkness does not equal emptiness. The same is true within the human mind. Dark spaces, the things not yet understood, not yet named, not yet ready to be shared, are not necessarily signs of lack. They may be places where another kind of light is waiting to emerge. Not light to expose, but light to communicate with oneself. Rainer Maria Rilke once wrote in Letters to a Young Poet, "Try to love the questions themselves like locked rooms and like books that are written in a very foreign tongue." Perhaps the bioluminescence of the deep ocean is nature's way of loving the questions. It does not try to answer the darkness. It lives within it, and from there allows its own small light to appear at the right moment. Listening to this story at night, the mind begins to change its relationship with light. Light is no longer something that must always be switched on to banish uncertainty, no longer a prerequisite for feeling safe. Instead, light becomes a conscious choice, something that appears only when needed and disappears as soon as it has fulfilled its role. Bioluminescence also teaches a gentle lesson in restraint. Light in the deep ocean does not linger. It does not waste energy. It turns on, then turns off. Enough to send a signal, enough to survive. Then it returns the space to darkness. Perhaps the human mind does not need to be constantly lit either. It does not need to always think, analyze, explain. Sometimes a brief spark of awareness, a moment of just enough understanding is sufficient, followed by permission for consciousness to settle back into quiet. Carl Jung once wrote in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, "In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder, a secret order." The darkness of the deep ocean, when observed long enough, is not chaotic at all. It has structure. It has rhythm. It has its own language. And in the same way, the darker regions of the inner world are not signs of collapse. They may be places where a different order is quietly at work. When darkness is no longer empty, fear begins to dissolve. We no longer need to drive the night away with harsh light. We can remain with the night long enough to notice the small flashes, sensations of safety, gentle memories, steady breathing arising from within without any external source of illumination. At this depth of the journey, sleep is no longer something to be achieved. It becomes the natural consequence of no longer resisting darkness. When we allow darkness to be present, when we stop demanding that it disappear, the light that is needed, very small, very personal, finds its own way to appear. And then, like the creatures of the deep ocean, your mind may learn to switch on its own light only when necessary. Not to illuminate the path, not to control, but to whisper that you are still alive, still present, and in this quiet darkness that is already enough. Darkness is no longer empty, it becomes something that supports. And as you listen to this, each sentence drifting slowly past, you may begin to realize that it is precisely when all outer light has fully disappeared that the deepest peace is finally able to glow. After darkness has begun to glow in its own way through small signals, brief flashes, not meant to light a path, but simply to persist, we arrive at an even deeper realization. At this depth, sunlight is no longer the center of the story. In fact, it is no longer necessary at all. The deep ocean opens onto another possibility. Life does not need the sun. In the familiar human imagination, life is always bound to light. Plants need sunlight. Day and night shape biological rhythms. Energy comes from the sky, yet at hydrothermal vents and chemical seeps on the ocean floor, life follows a different logic. There is no dawn, no sunset, only hot rock minerals and quiet chemical currents rising from within the earth itself. And from these elements alone, life emerges. chemosynthesis is not like photosynthesis. It does not turn light into energy. It turns geology into life. The first microbes here do not look upward in search of sunlight. They listen to the chemistry of the earth. Sulfur, methane, iron, substances that seem harsh, even toxic to humans, become the foundation of a complete ecosystem. Giant tube worms, blind shrimp, pale crabs, all existing in a world that has never needed light to confirm its worth. This creates a profound shift in how we understand energy and life itself. Energy does not come only from above. It also rises from within, from heat, from pressure, from silent reactions unfolding over billions of years without witnesses. Life does not always have to orient outward in order to continue. It can root itself in deeper currents, steadier, more stable, less subject to change. When we notice this at night, a very gentle comfort appears. Perhaps human beings, too, do not always need light in the social sense to go on living. Not constant motivation, not dazzling goals, not uninterrupted recognition. There are periods when vitality comes from staying close to inner heat, core values, quiet convictions, small but enduring habits. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote in "Thus Spoke Zarathustra," one must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. In the deep ocean, chaos is not disorder, it is environment. And from that environment, life not only arises but stabilizes in its own way. There is no need to become a blazing star. It is enough to exist in harmony with one's conditions. Chemosynthesis also offers a lesson in independence. Life here does not depend on external cycles. It is not governed by clouds or seasons. It is bound to geological rhythm, slow, deep, unwavering. This gives time in the deep ocean a different quality, unhurried, undivided, an extended present stable enough that life does not need to rush toward becoming something else. In human life, we often measure vitality by how bright it is, how many achievements, how much visibility, how much motion. But the deep ocean suggests another definition. Life can also be measured by the ability to sustain itself, the ability to keep breathing, to remain present, to continue exchanging energy with the environment, even when no one is watching. Albert Camus once wrote in The Myth of Sisyphus, "The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. But in the deep ocean, there are no heights, no summit to conquer, only the quiet maintenance of repeated processes, and it is this repetition that gives rise to meaning. Perhaps not every life needs a climax. Some lives are complete within their steady rhythm alone." As the narration drifts slowly onward, chemosynthesis no longer feels like a distant scientific concept. It becomes a gentle metaphor for those periods in life when we no longer receive light from outside, when old motivations fade, when familiar goals no longer fit, when recognition temporarily disappears. In such moments, if we can return to our own inner geology, what is deep, durable, and true life can still continue. At this depth, life does not need to prove that it is growing. It only needs to be happening. And at night, as your body gradually releases tension, as your breath becomes even and calm, perhaps you are entering a similar state. No bright light required, no sharp thinking, just a very small current of energy enough to sustain presence. Carl Jung once wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "The greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. Life in the deep ocean does not solve the problem of missing sunlight. It outgrows the need for it by redefining energy. And human beings in darker seasons can do the same, not by finding immediate answers, but by growing alongside the questions in silence. When we accept that life does not need the sun, we also accept that value does not always come from what shines. There are forms of life nourished by darkness, by heat, by pressure, by quiet reactions unfolding unseen. And on certain nights, it is precisely this quietness that body and mind need most." In this chapter, the ocean no longer teaches us about light or darkness. It teaches us about source, a source of energy without display, a form of existence that does not need to be seen. And as you listen, each sentence moving slowly past, you may feel a deep reassurance arise that even when all outer light has gone out, the life within you can continue quietly, steadily, and warm enough to carry you into peaceful sleep. After understanding that life can exist without sunlight sustained by quiet, enduring sources of energy rising from the depths of the earth, we begin to sense an even deeper shift. Not a change of space, but a change of time. At this depth, time no longer flows in the way we are used to. It slows, very slowly, so slowly that it almost dissolves into the background of existence. The low temperatures of the sea floor do not merely make the water colder, they slow every rhythm of life. Chemical reactions unfold more slowly. Bodily movement becomes rare. Energy demands drop to a minimum. Here, life does not rush to expend itself. It learns how to endure. Every action is weighed in time, not in speed. And within these conditions, time begins to take on a different form. It is no longer the hurried current of days, weeks, and years, no longer a sequence of milestones to be reached. Time at the ocean floor becomes an extended space where the present is not fragmented into moments that must be seized. It feels like a very deep, very long breath, enough for life to exist without urgency, without the need to become something else. Creatures of the deep can live for hundreds, even thousands of years. Not because they defeat death, but because they do not race against time. They do not grow rapidly. They do not reproduce in excess. They do not burn energy in short-term competition. Evolution here unfolds like a very slow conversation between environment and life, where each change is tested across centuries. Listening to this at night creates a strange sensation almost entirely opposite to modern life. We live in a world where time is broken apart, measured, optimized, where faster is often equated with better. But the deep ocean does not operate by that metric. It follows another measure altogether: endurance, not speed. Philosophy has long recognized this difference. Baruch Spinoza once wrote in Ethics, "All things excellent are as difficult as they are rare." At the ocean floor, excellence does not lie in visibility. It lies in the ability to persist without collapse. And that requires slowness, patience, and an entirely different relationship with time. When low temperatures slow everything down, life does not experience deprivation. It is released from haste. There is no need to react quickly, no need to extract maximum value from every moment. Time is no longer a pressure but a foundation. And it is this foundation that gives rise to a very deep kind of calm, a calm that does not come from everything being good, but from nothing demanding immediacy. Perhaps that is why, when we hear of creatures living for centuries in cold darkness, we do not feel envy. We feel softened, as if some part of us too is weary of chasing surface time, a part that longs to live within a more extended present, where each breath is not merely a stepping stone toward what comes next. Martin Heidegger once wrote, in Being and Time, "We are too late for the gods and too early for being." The line carries the sense that human life is perpetually out of sync with time, but the deep ocean is not. It is neither early nor late. It moves at its own rhythm, and that very synchrony is what makes existence there feel stable. Evolution does not hurry at the ocean floor. It does not seek rapid perfection. It experiments slowly, cautiously. A minor change may take thousands of years to prove itself worthy of remaining. But once it remains, it endures. There is no need for constant repair, no need for frequent restructuring. There is a deep trust in time itself, as though the ocean knows there is no reason to rush. When we notice this in a near sleep state, a familiar pressure begins to dissolve. The pressure to keep up with time, to mature on schedule, to succeed at the right stage, to understand something before it is too late. The deep ocean does not recognize too late. It only knows long enough. Carl Jung once wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "Haste is not a good counselor. At the ocean floor, haste is not merely unwise, it is impossible. The environment forces life to slow down. And in that enforced slowness, another form of freedom emerges. Freedom from comparison, from external metrics, from the fear of falling behind." As the narration continues, its steady drift time within your own mind begins to change as well. Thoughts no longer leap ahead. Emotions no longer demand immediate resolution. Awareness settles into a state resembling the deep ocean where there are few events but abundant presence. A presence without purpose, without outcome. At this depth, sleep may no longer feel like a destination. It becomes a consequence. When time slows enough, when the body is no longer driven by the daytime tempo, consciousness naturally drifts into rest, not collapsing, not switching off, but gently settling like cold water spreading evenly through space. Slow time at the ocean floor is not stagnation. It is a form of intelligence inherent to existence, a way of living that does not exhaust what is precious too quickly. And as you listen to this at night, perhaps you can allow yourself not to move faster, understand faster, or fall asleep faster. Just slow down with the ocean, slow like low temperature, slow like unhurried evolution, slow enough that time is no longer a pursuer, but a place. And within that place, sleep arrives very gently as though it has been there all along, simply waiting for you to stop rushing long enough to notice. When time has slowed deeply enough, when the rhythm of life is no longer driven by temperature, light, or competition, the ocean reveals a very quiet paradox. At the same depth, under the same pressure, within the same cold darkness, life chooses two opposing paths in order to continue. Some become immense, others become almost invisible. And both in their own ways are valid answers to the same question, how to remain present. The creatures that grow large on the ocean floor do not do so to impress. They grow in order to store time, to store energy. In a world where food is scarce and opportunities arrive infrequently, size becomes a form of physical memory. A larger body carries greater reserves, endures longer gaps between encounters with sustenance. Here, being large is not ambition. Being large is patience. That immensity is quiet. It moves slowly. It consumes little. It exists as a calm mass drifting through space, seemingly in no hurry to arrive anywhere. And it is precisely this lack of haste that allows it to endure. The deep ocean permits such bodies to exist for hundreds of years, as though time itself has been compressed within each layer of tissue. Alongside this, however, the ocean also favors a completely opposite strategy. There are beings so transparent they nearly vanish, colorless, without clear edges, without shadows. They do not store. They conserve absolutely. Every movement is minimized, every reaction simplified. They survive by leaving no trace. If immensity says, I am large enough to wait, then transparency says, I do not need to be seen. Here, no strategy is ranked above another. The ocean does not choose sides. It simply retains what aligns with its deep rhythm. And within this neutrality, both extremes coexist without conflict, without exclusion. Listening to this at night, a gentle realization begins to surface. Human life too often oscillates between similar extremes. There are periods when we need to become large, to carry more responsibility, to accumulate experience, to build a stable foundation through long stretches of uncertainty. And there are periods when we need to become small, less visible, less reactive, less consuming, in order not to exhaust ourselves. Philosophy encountered this paradox early on. Blaise Pascal wrote in Pensée Man is equally incapable of seeing the nothingness from which he emerges and the infinity in which he is engulfed. Between nothingness and infinity, the human mind cannot hold both at once. Yet the deep ocean allows both strategies to exist side by side, the immense and the nearly invisible as two different responses to the same reality. There is something quietly healing in realizing that there is no single correct shape for existence, that you do not always need to grow larger to prove your worth, and you do not always need to disappear in order to feel safe. Each strategy has its moment. Each form is valid within a particular rhythm of life. The transparent beings of the deep ocean are not lacking. They are not unfinished. They have optimized existence to the point of near total efficiency. No need to defend with size, no need to store with mass. They persist through radical simplicity. And it is precisely this simplicity that allows them to survive conditions that would crush more rigid forms. Carl Jung wrote in Psychological Types, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases." The deep ocean seems to understand this instinctively. It does not impose a single model of life. It permits many ways of existing as long as each harmonizes with the underlying rhythm of the environment. When we connect this with the previous chapters, a smooth current begins to form. Pressure taught us to soften. Darkness taught us to glow at the right moment. Chemistry taught us to find energy within. Time taught us to slow down. And now the ocean teaches us that the form of life does not need to be uniform. On tired nights, we may ask ourselves, should I push harder or should I let go? Should I expand or should I retreat? The deep ocean does not answer with commands. It simply shows that both choices can be right, depending on rhythm, timing, and inner resources. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "He who despises himself still respects himself as one who despises." Perhaps it is not size or smallness that determines value, but honesty toward one's own strategy of survival. The ocean does not encourage pretense. A creature cannot be both immense and transparent. It chooses one path and inhabits it fully. As the narration continues its slow drift, your mind may begin to release the pressure to become a fixed model. You do not need to be strong in a surface sense at all times. You do not need to vanish to find peace. Perhaps on this night, you only need to allow yourself to be exactly the size of the present moment. If today you need to store, then store. If today you need to conserve, then conserve. If today you need to be visible, be visible. If today you need to be transparent, be transparent. The deep ocean does not judge. It only keeps the rhythm. And within that rhythm, when opposites no longer struggle against one another, a deep reassurance emerges. That existence is not a competition of forms, that there is no single correct size for all, only harmony between form and rhythm. At this depth of the journey, sleep does not need to be summoned. It arrives as a natural result of no longer needing to prove anything. When you allow yourself not to be larger, not to be smaller, only fitting, the mind finds rest on its own. And in that rest, like the deep ocean, you may drift or remain still in the way that suits you best. When light has retreated for long enough, when darkness is no longer an empty space, and life has learned how to glow, to store, or to dissolve into its surroundings, the ocean begins to speak in another language. At this depth, vision is no longer central. Not because the eyes have failed, but because the world is no longer shaped for sight. And within this absence, another sense quietly rises to guide the way. Sound. In the deep ocean, sound travels farther than light, much farther. The smallest vibrations can move tens, even hundreds of kilometers through cold, dense water. Sound waves bend around obstacles, reflect, return, carrying with them the shape of the space they have passed through. Here, sound is not merely for hearing. It becomes a map, a way of seeing without eyes, a way of orienting without images. The ocean, in this sense, is seen through listening. There is something both strange and gentle in this idea, that when one sense no longer serves the world, does not collapse. It simply changes language. Vision once allowed humans to control, to separate, to name, but sound is different. Sound does not frame, it spreads. It reaches the body before it reaches thought. We cannot observe sound safely from a distance. We must receive it as it passes through us. In the deep ocean, beings do not stand outside the world to observe it. They exist within vibration. They feel space through delicate echoes. A faint noise may be a warning. A steady pulse may signal the presence of another. A prolonged silence also carries meaning, perhaps safety, perhaps emptiness. Sound does not merely transmit information, it creates relationship between life and environment. Listening to this at night, a gentle shift takes place within the mind. Modern humans are accustomed to living by sight. We look in order to understand, to judge, to compare. But at night, especially in the moments before sleep, vision begins to withdraw. Eyes close. Images soften, and like the deep ocean, the mind begins to rely on rhythm rather than form. The sound of the voice, the cadence of breath, the pauses between sentences. All of these become a map guiding awareness deeper. There is no need to know where you are, no need to picture anything clearly, only to let vibration lead the way. Existential philosophy touched this quietly long ago. Martin Heidegger wrote in Being and Time language is the house of being. Yet before language carries meaning, before words take shape, there is sound, rhythm, resonance, rising and settling. In the deep ocean, existence is not seen. It is heard, or more precisely, it is felt through the entire body. This carries a deeply healing lesson for a tired mind. That we do not always need to see the path ahead. We do not need a sharp image of the future. Sometimes it is enough to listen to the rhythm of the present, to notice what is vibrating within, what is gently sounding, what is settling into quiet. Sound also teaches us about distance in another way. Light gives us a clear sense of near and far. Sound is more ambiguous. A noise may be distant, yet reach us deeply. A voice may be close, yet leave no trace. The deep ocean lives within this ambiguity. And it is precisely this uncertainty that allows life not to react too quickly. Beings listen. They wait. They read the world through signals that are not fully defined but sufficient to continue. Maurice Merleau-Ponty wrote in Phenomenology of Perception, "The body is our general medium for having a world. In the deep ocean, to have a world does not mean to see it. It means to allow the body to become the place the world passes through." Sound moves through water, through tissue, through presence. The world is no longer out there, it is within. As the narration continues its slow drift, you may notice that you too are beginning to see with your ears. There is no need to construct images of the deep sea, no need to visualize clearly. Simply allow the sound of the voice, the rhythm of the sentences to carry awareness. Like sound waves, they do not illuminate, but they shape. There is a particular safety in not needing to see everything. When we do not look, we do not compare. When we do not look, we do not judge. We simply remain within the flow. The deep ocean understands this. It does not demand clarity. It allows blur. And within that blur, life continues often more steadily. Carl Jung once wrote in the Red Book, "I found that I could not go forward with my thinking." And in that moment of no longer being able to move ahead through thought, he turned toward image sound symbol. Perhaps when the vision of reason pauses, another form of knowing can open one that does not need to be correct, only faithful to experience. In the deep ocean, sound does not create a perfect map. It creates just enough orientation. And perhaps in human life, we do not need a flawless map either. Only enough signals not to be entirely lost, enough rhythm not to panic, enough vibration to know that we are still within this world. As this chapter draws toward its close, vision does not disappear. It simply steps aside, making room for listening, for sensing, for ways of understanding that do not rely on images. And in this transition, awareness begins to soften, no longer tense from the need to see clearly, no longer pressured to imagine. Sleep now does not arrive like darkness falling. It arrives like a pause, a moment when there is nothing left to see, nothing left to seek, only the steady vibrations of presence, like the deep ocean where light no longer leads the way, yet the world is still read through sound, through the body, through complete presence. And within that presence, very slowly, very gently, you may allow yourself to drift with the final resonance of these words, like a small wave until no map is needed at all. After growing accustomed to seeing the world with the ears through slow vibrations replacing light, the ocean leads us into another movement almost impossible to hear. Not an echo, not a signal, but a falling, very gentle, very even. A kind of rain without sound, unfolding day and night without an audience. It is called marine snow. Marine snow is not snow in the familiar sense. It is made of countless tiny fragments, the remains of plankton, microscopic organic particles, bits of life that have completed their cycle at the surface. They drift slowly through the layers of the ocean, taking days, weeks, sometimes months to reach the deep sea floor. Each particle falls like an extended breath, unhurried, unmissed. And at the bottom of the ocean, where direct sources of energy are nearly absent, these very small particles sustain an entire world. There is a quiet beauty in this movement. No brilliance of light, no sound of collision, only patience. The seafloor does not demand much. It does not rely on powerful currents. It lives on things that are very small, arriving very slowly, but arriving consistently. Each particle is a promise of survival, not guaranteed, not emphasized, yet kept by time itself. If we listen long enough, we begin to realize that the entire deep sea ecosystem is built on faith in accumulation. There are no grand feasts, no spectacular harvest seasons, only small meals repeated again and again, stretched across years. And it is precisely this rhythm of accumulation that creates endurance. The ocean does not wager on a single moment. It wagers on flow. This touches a very deep layer of human experience. We often seek change through leaps, a major decision, a dramatic breakthrough, a clearly marked turning point. But marine snow suggests another path, the path of very small things carried out for long enough. No one sees each particle fall, yet the seafloor lives because of them. At night, as the narration slows and the mind is no longer pulled by large images, this idea begins to offer a gentle comfort that not all progress needs to be visible right away. Not every effort needs recognition. Some days, what we do is simply fall a little more, a small habit, a quiet act of kindness, a brief moment of self-care. And even when no immediate result appears, these things are still accumulating somewhere very deep. Philosophy has spoken of the power of small things in many ways. William James wrote in the Principles of Psychology, "The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. A very small choice, repeated, unremarkable, yet capable of reshaping an entire inner landscape over time." The marine snow of mental life falls in just this way. At the deep seafloor, no creature waits for a heavy downpour to survive. They learn how to remain still and receive, to accept what arrives even in small amounts and to use it sparingly. There is a soft wisdom in this posture. No haste, no disappointment, no judging the present by the standards of the surface. When we connect this with the earlier chapters, a smooth current emerges. Light steps aside for darkness. Darkness glows through small signals. Life does not require the sun, only the right source of energy. Time slows so nothing fractures. Size diverges to store or conserve. Sound replaces vision as guide. And now very small things become the foundation of an entire world. Simone Weil once wrote, "In gravity and grace, attention taken to its highest degree is the same thing as prayer." At the ocean floor, life persists through a form of sustained attention. Attention to falling particles, to repetition, to waiting without demand. And perhaps in human life, healing also begins with attention held long enough on very small things, long enough for them to become a foundation. There is something deeply human in realizing that the seafloor, distant and cold, survives on fragments from the surface. What is discarded? What has completed its role elsewhere? Nothing is entirely wasted. Each particle has its own journey, and at the end of that journey, it becomes life for another place. This thought, when it settles into the night, can soften the sense of meaninglessness many carry. Albert Camus wrote in The Plague, "The habit of despair is worse than despair itself. Marine snow is a habit of hope, very quiet. Not hope for a specific outcome, but hope in continuation itself. That if we keep going, even in very small ways, life will have something to hold on to. No promises, no guarantees, just the willingness to keep falling in our own rhythm. As the voice drifts evenly, you may feel this within your own body. The breath, the heartbeat, the tiny movements unfolding without conscious direction. The body lives on very small things, each breath, each cell, and yet maintains remarkable stability. The mind is the same. It does not need grand ideas to be at ease. Sometimes it only needs not to interrupt what is already falling at the right pace." In this chapter, the ocean does not teach us how to move faster. It teaches us how to wait without tension, to wait without doubt, to wait with a very quiet trust that small things, if they arrive long enough, will become ground. And at night, when the pressure to do something dissolves, this lesson draws very near. Sleep now does not need to be summoned. It arrives like marine snow, very gently drifting through awareness, settling, accumulating. There is no moment of falling asleep. Only a smooth transition from waking to resting, from thinking to breathing, from effort to presence. The seafloor lives on very small things. And perhaps on this night, so do you. Just one more breath, one more sentence, one more pause. Very small things, when allowed to fall, are enough to carry you into peace. After growing accustomed to the patient descent of marine snow, those tiny particles that sustain an entire world, the ocean leads us somewhere deeper still. Here, all movement seems to slow to the point of near stillness. Light vanished long ago. Sound has grown sparse, and pressure, that silent weight, reaches its extreme. We arrive at the deep trenches, places where the world becomes isolated in a very particular way. The hadal zone resembles islands of evolution cut off from the rest of the planet. Not islands floating on the surface, but islands submerged in darkness and pressure. Each trench is a sealed valley where exchange with the world above is minimal and slow. Life here is not regularly supplied. It must self-adjust, self-stabilize, self-sustain within prolonged silence. Pressure here is no longer a vague background. It becomes an absolute condition, a force that cannot be negotiated with. No creature gets used to it in any psychological sense. They exist only if their structure matches the environment with near-perfect precision. And what is remarkable is this life is still present, not abundant, not dramatic, but sufficient to affirm that even at the edge of what is possible, life still finds a foothold. There is a profound stillness in this presence. Hadal creatures do not live to expand. They live to maintain minimal exchange, to maintain a fitting form, to maintain stability within a world that allows little margin for error. Here, evolution does not rush, it refines. A small change can determine everything, and so everything unfolds slowly, carefully. Listening to this at night, a familiar feeling begins to surface, the feeling of isolated phases in human life. Times when we feel far from every center, far from attention, far from resources, far even from the rhythms that once supported us. In such moments, the question is no longer, how do I move faster, but how do I remain? The trenches promise nothing. They offer no shortcuts, no light to hope for, only the present conditions and their single demand fit. Life here does not dream of the surface. It learns to exist fully within its circumstances. And it is precisely this fullness that creates a strange kind of calm, not born of ease, but of no longer resisting what cannot be changed. Philosophy has touched this feeling many times. Soren Kierkegaard wrote in The Sickness Unto Death, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." In the trenches of experience, we rarely understand where we are while we are there. We can only live one very small moment at a time and allow meaning, if it comes, to arrive later. Creatures living at the edge of existence do not have many choices, but they possess something precious precision, no waste, no excess. Every function serves the continuation of presence. Perhaps in isolated periods of human life, healing lies not in finding more options, but in clarifying what is keeping us alive, even if it is very small. When we connect this chapter to what came before, the current becomes clearer. Pressure taught us to soften. Darkness taught us to glow at the right moment. Chemistry taught us to find sources within. Time taught us to slow down. Size taught us to choose fitting strategies. Sound taught us to listen. Marine snow taught us patience. And now the trenches teach us how to remain when there is nothing to rely on except our own fit with the present. Albert Camus wrote in The Myth of Sisyphus, "The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. But in the hadal depths, there are no heights, only the bottom. And there, struggle is not the effort to climb, but the capacity to sustain, moment by moment, exchange by exchange, breath by very small breath. There is an unexpected gentleness in realizing this. Not every phase needs expansion or eruption. Some phases only need not to break, not to collapse, not to dissolve. The deep ocean does not demand heroes. It preserves what can adjust with precision. And within that precision, there is a quiet dignity. As the narration drifts on, you may feel this touching something within you. Nights when you do not need grand answers, no long-term plans, only the sense that I am still here, that even at the edge of energy, the edge of motivation, the edge of hope, life can continue if we are gentle enough with present conditions. The trenches are not places to remain forever, but they teach a rare skill living within harsh conditions without becoming rigid. Hadal life is not hard. It is flexible in an extreme way, and it is precisely this flexibility that allows it to endure pressure without resistance. At the end of this chapter, there is no promise that everything will brighten, no exit drawn in advance. Only a very quiet truth, even in the most isolated place, under the greatest pressure, life can still be present, silently, precisely, sufficiently. And perhaps on this night, that is enough for you as well. No need to move forward, no need to turn back, only to remain here in your own rhythm a little longer. Sleep, then, is not an escape from the trench. It is a way of resting within it, where the pressure of a long day gradually dissolves, and consciousness is allowed to rest very gently, very deeply at the edge of existence. After passing through the isolated trenches where life exists at the very edge of endurance, the ocean's journey suddenly takes on a different kind of motion. No longer the movement of organisms, pressure, or slowed time, but the movement of humans, very light, very cautious, like a fingertip brushing darkness without disturbing it. Humans do not enter the deep ocean with bare bodies. We arrive in submersibles robots, sonar-fragile layers placed between curiosity and an environment that was never meant for us. Thick metal, pressure-resistant glass, fiber optic cables, weak signals. Everything reminds us this is not where we belong. We are visitors. There is a distinct humility in the way humans appear here. We do not walk, we do not swim, we do not touch directly. We hang in the water, observing through glass, listening through echoes. Even our breath does not mix with the environment, it is sealed inside a chamber, as if the slightest mistake would prompt the ocean to remind us that we are beyond our natural limits. And within this fragility, something essential happens. Discovery changes its meaning. On the surface, discovery is often tied to conquest, setting foot, naming, extracting. But in the deep ocean, conquest is impossible. Pressure forbids it. Distance forbids it. The complexity of the ecosystem forbids it. And so discovery must become something else entirely: listening. Sonar does not see. It sends out a question and waits for the answer to return. Robots do not impose their rhythm. They drift slowly with the currents. Submersibles do not stay long. They arrive, observe, and retreat. Everything unfolds with a quiet respect, as if humanity has learned that some worlds allow approach but not possession. Listening to this at night, a deep parallel emerges with inner life. There are regions within us, deep memories, unnamed emotions, questions not ready for answers that cannot be conquered either. If we force them, they close. If we shine too harsh a light, they distort. Only when we arrive as guests, slow, gentle, respectful, do they allow us near. Simone Weil once wrote, "In gravity and grace, attention taken to its highest degree is the same thing as prayer." In the deep ocean, attention carries the quality of prayer, not as a request, but as presence. Humans do not ask, What can we take from here, but rather, what is this world saying if we are quiet enough to hear? There is something deeply soothing in realizing that science at this depth is no longer absolute control. It becomes a relationship, a dialogue between curiosity and limitation. And it is precisely limitation that makes the dialogue honest. Humans do not pretend to be strong. We acknowledge our fragility, and in that acknowledgement, another kind of intelligence appears. Existential philosophy has long emphasized the role of limits. Carl Jaspers called them boundary situations, moments when humans are forced to confront their own finitude. The deep ocean is a physical boundary situation, and when humans enter it not to overcome the limit, but to live within it, something quietly transformative occurs. Fragility ceases to be a weakness. It becomes the condition for listening. A submersible knows it cannot remain indefinitely, and so it observes more carefully. A robot knows its energy is limited, and so it moves with precision. A scientist knows the data will be incomplete, and so conclusions are drawn with humility. The ocean teaches humans how not to rush understanding. When this chapter connects with all that came before, the current becomes unmistakable. Pressure taught us to soften. Darkness taught us to glow at the right moment. Chemistry taught us to find sources within. Time taught us to slow. Size taught us to choose fitting strategies. Sound taught us to listen. Marine snow taught us patience. The trenches taught us how to remain, and now humanity learns how to approach without intrusion. Hannah Arendt wrote in The Human Condition, power corresponds to the human ability not just to act, but to act in concert. In the deep ocean, acting together does not mean imposing human will, but aligning with the world's rhythm. Action no longer means extraction. It means harmony. As the narration drifts onward, you may feel this extending into yourself. At night, you do not need to go deeper through effort. You do not need to excavate the mind. You only need to come close, very close to what is already present. Listen to the breath. Listen to the silence. Listen to the faint signals of fatigue, like sonar sending a question and waiting. Humans in this chapter are no longer at the center, and that is a relief. No need to be the main character, no need to understand everything, no need to carry the burden of conquest, only to be present long enough to learn when silence is appropriate. There is a deep peace in allowing yourself to be a guest in your own life, not owning every answer, not controlling every outcome, simply entering slowly and withdrawing when the moment is complete. The deep ocean is not harmed by such withdrawal, it is honored. At the end of this chapter, no great discovery is announced, no final secret is revealed. Only an attitude is affirmed. Discovery is not about conquest, but about listening. And sometimes listening long enough is already a profound form of understanding. Sleep in this spirit is not collapse from exhaustion. It is a conscious retreat, a knowing that you do not need to go any further tonight, no need to touch deeper, only to stop like a submersible, completing its mission and allow the quiet darkness to do its work. Humans touch the darkness lightly, then let go. And in that letting go, peace arrives without noise, like a very slow, very deep reply from the ocean within you. After humanity has learned to touch the darkness lightly, to come close without intruding, to listen, without possessing, the ocean's journey does not end with a final discovery. Instead, it opens into a broader, quieter realization that most of the ocean remains unknown. And perhaps this is not a deficiency, but a defining feature. The deep ocean is like a library that has not yet been fully written, not because it lacks pages, but because those pages do not yet need to be filled. Millions of square kilometers of seafloor remain unmapped in detail. Trenches no submersible has ever visited. Forms of life that may exist without ever having been named. Not because humanity is insufficiently intelligent, but because this world does not demand to be completely read. In a civilization accustomed to collecting, storing, and completing knowledge, this can feel unsettling. We are used to believing that understanding is a duty, that mysteries exist in order to be solved. But the deep ocean poses a different, very quiet question. What if not every mystery requires an answer? Some places exist not to be unlocked, but to remain at a distance. Not to challenge human intellect, but to remind it of its natural limits. The ocean does not close itself off. It simply does not open fully. And in that incompleteness, a space essential for humility is created. Listening to this at night, a familiar pressure begins to dissolve, the pressure to understand everything, to have answers for every question, to complete the picture before allowing oneself to rest. The deep ocean is unhurried. It existed for billions of years before anyone asked about it, and it will continue to exist even if many questions remain unanswered. Socrates is recorded in the Apology as saying in the simplest spirit, "I know that I know nothing." This is not a rejection of knowledge, but an acknowledgement of a necessary space for the unknown. The deep ocean is the physical embodiment of that statement, vast, dark, and in no hurry to explain itself. When we imagine the ocean as a library, we realize that not every book needs to be finished. Some shelves are empty, not because content is missing, but because they make room for silence. And that silence is not empty. It allows imagination to breathe. It allows science to continue asking. It allows humanity to avoid the illusion that it already understands enough. In inner life, this is equally true. There are parts of us that remain unnamed, feelings without clear contours, memories that stay blurred, questions without immediate answers. When we force them to become complete, we often only distort them. But when we allow them to exist as unwritten pages, a different kind of peace appears, the peace of not needing to close everything. Ludwig Wittgenstein wrote in Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus, "Whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent. The deep ocean does not speak much. It does not interpret itself. It exists. And that existence without words is already a full message." If the earlier chapters taught us about light stopping darkness, glowing life without the sun, time slowing size, diverging sound, guiding marine snow, persisting trenches, isolating, and humans learning to listen, then this chapter does not add another lesson. It releases. It lets go of the need to add more. It lets go of the desire to conclude. Perhaps this is the chapter most like sleep itself. Sleep is not a state we fully understand. We do not control the moment we fall into it. We only create conditions, darkness, quiet safety, and allow it to arrive. The deep ocean is the same. It does not ask to be explained before it is respected. Hannah Arendt wrote in The Life of the Mind, "Thinking always deals with absences. Thought works not only with what is present, but with what is missing." The deep ocean, like an unfinished library, preserves these empty spaces, so that thinking is not confined to what is already known. There is a deep healing in allowing the world and oneself to remain incomplete. Not every mystery needs to be solved. Not every story needs a clear ending. Some places exist simply to remind us that we are not the center, and that does not make us smaller. It makes us lighter. As the voice slows, you may sense that there is nothing more you need to learn right now. No concepts to retain, no images to hold. Only a gentle feeling remains that the world is far larger than you, and that this is okay. That there are things you will never know, and that this too is okay. The ocean as an unfinished library is not a farewell. It is a permission. Permission not to know. Permission to rest. Permission not to close the journey with a definite conclusion. Some journeys do not end with answers, but with ease. And tonight, after traveling so far through light, darkness, pressure time, sound, and silence, you do not need to carry anything with you. No need to remember, no need to summarize, no need to understand the entire ocean or yourself. Only this: there are pages unwritten, and they do not ask you to write them now. There are mysteries unopened, and they do not diminish meaning. There are places that exist simply to remind us to be humble, gentle, and enough. And when awareness touches that feeling, very slowly, very lightly, sleep arrives not as an ending, but as a pause, a blank space between pages, a safe place to stop. And now, as this journey gently draws to a close, you no longer need to carry anything with you. No need to remember the concepts. No need to hold on to images of the sea floor, the darkness, or the distant trenches. The ocean remains there, vast, quiet, unchanged by whether we have seen it or never seen it at all. Just like the world within you, not everything needs to be fully understood for you to feel at ease. Not every question requires an answer before you are allowed to rest. Some things exist simply to be left undisturbed, and it is precisely this stillness that nourishes. If a few thoughts are still drifting through your mind, let them drift. If there are feelings that have not found a name, let them remain. No need to adjust them. No need to conclude. Now is the moment you can let yourself sink like a grain of marine snow, impossibly light, falling through awareness, settling into the safest place. The ocean does not ask you to continue. It does not urge you forward. It simply holds its rhythm very slow, very steady. Let your breath return to its natural flow. Let your body do what it has known how to do for a very long time. And if sleep arrives, allow it to arrive, not as an ending, but as a return,